Yo, what is up everyone, my name is Jeff Krause and welcome back to the episode of MDK Victory Stop. The 2020 Consumers Energy 400 from the Michigan International Speedway just wrapped up, capping off NASCAR's doubleheader race weekend from the Michigan International Speedway. Now yesterday's race was really fun, very entertaining to watch from start to finish, but I think this time we got set back down to reality and realized that this package needs to go. So let's start off at the beginning of the race. As we know, at the end of yesterday's race, top 20 was inverted. And 3 drivers of, I think out of 10 or 11 in the top 5 had to start at the rear due to backup cars. Drivers like Eric Almirola, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher, who started on pole, they all had to drop to the rear for backup cars. And that put Clint Boyer in the front row. And Boyer took off like a rocket. No one was able to get by him, and this was pretty interesting because Boyer was one of those drivers that was very outspoken of him not liking this random draw rule and how it was very unfair to him. And I think he even said on the lines of if he was out in front, he would be competitive, and he was. Took out like a rocket. No one was able to get anywhere near him. I think the closest driver, Jimmy Johnson, who moved up to second place, right behind him was William Byron. Johnson was, I think, 1.3 seconds behind Boyer. So Boyer was just gone. Meanwhile, drivers like Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., and Brad Keselowski, they started mid-pack due to them finishing out in front in yesterday's race. They started mid-pack and had to work their way towards the front, and it was pretty hectic for a bit near the start of a race. There was a lot of jostling for position, 2 wide, 3 wide, sometimes even 4 wide racing on the back straightaway. Harvick was the best out of the bunch to maneuver his way through the field and was in the top 10 before stage 1 finished. Even had certain moments like Joey Logano and Truex would even get loose in the middle of the corner or off of turn 2. And it was some exciting racing for a bit there between the middle of the pack, seeing all the what would eventually be the leaders of this race, trying to work their way towards the front of the pack, trying to pass drivers and trying to avoid contact. Again, it had its moments, but it was some pretty entertaining racing for a little bit in the middle of the pack. But as we would see later on in the race, they were able to get out in front and take over the remaining laps of today's event. But for now, up in front in stage 1, it was Clint Boyer. He led from start to finish. No one was able to get near him, and he would win, I think, his first stage win in months. I know he has 2 playoff points already, but that was way earlier in the season. Finally gets another stage 1. Second place was Christopher Bell, and third was Kyle Busch. On to stage 2, on pit road, Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, they pitted for 4 fresh tires and was able to get out first and second. That already meant, okay, now we're gonna go back to normal now. Now we're gonna have the leaders that we expect to be out in front actually lead the race now. But during the restart, you had Byron, Johnson, and Logano being the first drivers on the inside lane, with drivers like Harvick, Busch, and Boyer being the first 3 up top. This is because of that choose cone rule. But like I said, this was when the leaders started to take over, your usual leaders. Harvick pushes Busch entering turn 1 to take the lead, but then off of turn 2, Harvick went even higher than Busch on the outside lane to then pass Busch to then take the lead. And that was basically about it. I mean, that point in time, the field was so spread out, drivers really couldn't pass. The only driver that was able to make moves was Christopher Bell. I mean, he put on a show today. He would go on to finish 4th in stage 2, but Kevin Harvick would once again win stage 2. Remember, last year he won stage 1 and stage 2. Was not able to sweep the stages, but he still won a stage. Keselowski in 2nd, Kyle Busch in 3rd, Clint Boyer in 5th. You see also there Eric Jones in the 7th spot. Remember, he's trying to fight his way into the playoffs. He earned some valuable points in stage 1 and stage 2, but we'll talk about what happened near the end of the race and discuss his position, because after this, Now, stage 3 begins with Harvick and Hamlin once again out in front. We all know what's going on between the season-long rivalry between Hamlin and Harvick. Remember, the last time there was a doubleheader race weekend was back at Pocono. I think on Saturday, Harvick won that race, and on Sunday, Hamlin won that race. Or it could be a reverse, but it looked like it was set up to be another battle between the two with doubleheader. Harvick won Saturday. Hamlin was going to be a challenger to Harvick for him to win the race on Sunday. But another driver would get into the mix, and that would be Penske's Ryan Blaney. Hamlin and Blaney would get organized, and Hamlin would then go to the lead. But off of turn 2, Blaney gets underneath Hamlin and would slide up right in front of the 11 car's nose, and Blaney would get out in front. But his teammate Brad Keselowski was also making moves. He was passing cars in order to get towards the front, and that's when he tried to take the lead from Ryan Blaney and ends up getting loose and slams into the left rear corner panel of Blaney. Both hit the outside wall, ruin their race cars, and would ruin their day to bring out the first real caution of the race. It was not good for the Penske drivers, because those were the only two that I thought were going to put up a fight to Harvick. Kyle Busch and Truex, they were also in the mix in this race, but they never really had a shot, I felt like. To me, I always thought it was going to be between Blaney and Keselowski, and now they both wrecked themselves. So to me, I thought, oh, well, Harvick, he's got this in the bag. I don't know anyone else that could challenge him for the win. But during that caution, when that caution took place between Blaney and Keselowski, two other drivers, Clint Boyer and Alex Bowman. Boyer, who won stage 1, is trying to stay in the playoffs. He apparently and Bowman made contact. They both slammed into each other trying to avoid the wreck, and both had pretty significant damage. Bowman immediately went onto pit road during that caution to repair the damage, but Boyer stayed out. But for some odd reason, I don't know why, because that same lap, 1 or 2 laps after that restart, when that caution came out, Boyer, he had to pit. He had big enough damage to the point where he had to pit to repair the damage on his race car. He would go a lap down, and I thought at first, okay, this is going to hurt his playoff chances greatly, because now he's a lap down. You had drivers like Eric Jones scoring points. Reddick, he's up there. Johnson is up there, and he's a lap down. But luckily, a caution would save him. Christopher Bell entering turn 1, cuts a tire, spins, doesn't hit anyone, but he does bring out the caution, so that saved Boyer. Boyer would get the free pass and get back on the lead lap. With 47 laps to go, Harvick's teammate would be in the mix, that being Aric Almirola. Yesterday, he was horrible, but this time, he was actually able to put up a fight with his fellow Ford teammate. Now, the only reason why Aric Almirola was even in this position was because he stayed out on that last caution, and he was actually able to clear Harvick on the restart. After a few laps, though, Harvick, with fresher tires, was able to get back out in front and pass Almirola, but he was not able to get away from him. In fact, there were even reports coming out about Harvick having problems. I think with under 30 laps to go, Harvick was reported to have his engine overheating, as well as trying to save fuel. So now with that as an issue, Almirola was able to keep in touch with Harvick. But remember, Almirola, he's also in a fuel-conserving mode. He also needed to save fuel because he pitted much earlier than Harvick, so he has less fuel to deal with. But because of Harvick's overheating, he had to lay off a little bit. That allowed Almirola to close in, or at least stay within striking distance of Harvick. And there was even a point, I think, with 26 laps to go, where Harvick was held up by lap traffic. Almirola was able to get side by side with him, and when you're side by side with this package, you stall out, and that brought in the JGR drivers of Hamlin and Truex into this mix. But Harvick wasn't able to drive away from Almirola and the other drivers. Actually, Almirola would fall back to 4th, with Hamlin and Truex taking 2nd and 3rd respectively. But fuel, there was still an issue. It looked like at first it was going to go all the way to the end, but 19 laps ago, the fuel problem would be thrown out the window. Alex Bowman cuts a right rear tire, and I think a portion of the tire flew off of the car and went to the middle of the racetrack. Obviously, that's an issue. NASCAR had to throw a caution for debris. And when the final restart came out, it once again came down to 2 drivers, Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. Who would get out in front and who would win this race? Well, it was clear to me and to everyone else, Hamlin, he had a faster car. He went from 5/10 down to 2/10 in just a few laps, but he couldn't pass him because of this package. And I'm going to get into this package talk a little bit. There was even a moment, I think, with 2 or 3 laps ago, where Harvick, he had to let off the gas, and then Hamlin looked like he might get a run, but then Hamlin, he had to let off the gas as well. And it was fun racing, but it was super annoying because we knew Hamlin had a faster car. Everyone knew watching Hamlin had a faster car, but as soon as he got to Harvick's rear bumper, he stalled out. He couldn't pass him. When we all knew he could. If it was even if it was under the 2018 package, more than likely he could pass him. But again, this is another problem that we need to discuss with this 2020 Aero package. Harvick will go out and win the race by, I think, about a 10th or so, because the final lap, Hamlin went on the outside lane. Harvick drove the inside lane, and Hamlin got a huge run to get right up to Harvick's back bumper, but Harvick was able to win at Michigan for the 55th time in his Cup Series career, the 4th Michigan win in his career, and I think the 6th he has won this season. As you can see, the unofficial results to my right, to the left of your screen: Harvick wins, Hamlin is 2nd, Martrix Jr. in 3rd, Kyle Busch in 4th, and running out the top 5 is Joey Logano. 6th is Eric Almirola. 7th is Matt DiBenedetto. A quiet but very solid run for the 21 car. 8th is the 3 car of Austin Dillon. I was kind of surprised I saw him there. He was nowhere near the top 10 this entire race, and all of a sudden he pops up with this nice top 10 finish. Chase Elliott in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Kurt Busch. 11th is Jimmy Johnson. 12th is William Byron. 13th is Ryan Newman. 14th is Clint Boyer. 15th is Matt Kenseth. 16th is Ryan Preece. Hey, nice job, Ryan Preece. How about that? Top 16 finish after a horrific last few weeks. Nice run for him. Christopher Bell finishes 17th. It's not really fair to say, the results doesn't reflect his speed. He had a really fast race car. 2nd in stage 1, 4th in stage 2, but unfortunately with him cutting that tire, it put him in a bad spot, and he finished in the 17th position. But still, I'd say overall pretty good day in terms of speed wise. He was really up there in the top 5 for contention. Not for the win, but at least in contention for a top 5 finish. Behind him in 18th is the 13 car of Ty Dillon. Bubba Wallace finished in the 21st position, and there was actually a report that came out during the NBC broadcast that he apparently already has a stake in ownership at Richard Petty Motorsports since last year. I had no idea about this, but apparently he does. So I guess the new contract, which apparently that says a stake in ownership, might be more of a stake in ownership to my guess. I don't know. But yeah, that's a new little nugget I had no idea about with Bubba Wallace and Richard Petty Motorsports, that he already has a stake in ownership since last year even. And other notables: Tyler Reddick 24th, Cole Custer 25th, Daniel Suarez 26th, another nice top 20 finish for him. Eric Jones 27th. Yikes, that is not good. I do not know what happened. I know he had a bad pit stop late in the race, but my God, 27th, 5th and 7th in stage 1 and stage 2. He had points. He was gaining momentum on William Byron for the final playoff spot. I have no idea what happened, but he just fell off like a rock to 27th spot, and this is not good for his chances of making the playoffs. We're going to pull up the playoff grid in just a little bit, but Johnson finished 11th. Byron, I think, finished 12th. Even Reddick finished better than him in 24th. I mean, still, Jones earned more points than Reddick that entire race, but still, I mean, my goodness. I have no idea what happened with Jones, but I'm telling you, it's not looking good. He had a great run yesterday in the first Michigan race, but you can't keep having these bad runs like that, Jones, or else you're just going to make it harder for yourself to make it to the playoffs. Anyways, Alex Bowman, 36, and the final 2 spots were taken up by the Penske drivers of Ryan Blaney and Brad Keselowski due to them being involved in that accident in turn 2. So this is what the playoffs look like after Saturday's race. Boyer had a 41-point gap, DiBenedetto had a 40-point gap, and Byron hold the final spot 16 points ahead of Eric Jones. Well, after today's race, Boyer now has a 60-point gap, but DiBenedetto a 57-point gap, and now William Byron has a 26-point gap ahead of Eric Jones and Jimmy Johnson, who are now tied for the first spot outside of the playoffs, with Tyler Reddick in the 19th spot, 36 points behind. Now, as for the race, like I said, this package, this race, it was good. It was all right, actually. It wasn't good. It was all right, I will say. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, this race is getting spicy. No, it wasn't. This race, it was all right. It was not as good as yesterday's race. It was a race that I expected in your typical Michigan race under this package. Drivers stalling out, whenever they try to make runs. It was a bit better than what we saw in 2019. It was better, but slightly. In terms of a 1 to 10 rating, I'd give this race about a 6.5. If that battle between Hamlin and Harvick did not happen, I would have given it a 4. It was just not good, in my opinion. It was all right, and I think we sort of came back down from reality from the craziness from yesterday's race. That was sort of like just an outlier. I was like, all right, that was just completely out of normal. Now we're back down to reality, and this was the type of racing I expected with this package. Yesterday, I don't know what happened, but today, I expected this type of racing under this package, and those final few laps between Harvick and Hamlin proved my point. This package sucks. This package is so bad, and yeah, I pray to God when this next Gen car comes out, we do not have a package like this. In fact, in 2021, because we're still going to have the Gen 6 car in production, NASCAR, get a different package. Just get a different package for 2021. This sucks. It was so frustrating, that battle between Harvick and Hamlin, because we all knew Hamlin had a faster car, but he just couldn't get there because of the dirty air and it being so important, you being on throttle 95% of the time, specifically because they just had a pit stop with under 20 laps to go, so the tires are still really, really fresh. It was just not fun to watch. It was exciting, but it was also frustrating. That's how I will end off this episode. Exciting, but very frustrating. But ultimately, that is my thoughts from today's race. Tell me what are your guys' thoughts on the race in the comment section down below. Did you enjoy it? Did you not? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts from today's race. But until next time, my name is Jack Cross from MDK. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys next time.